Are we expecting everybody or?
The only person who will not be here is Bill Dubois.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'm still expecting Supervisor Fletcher.
okay,
You think so? As far as we know, yes.
okay.
It's good. Yeah. You and me both.
Yeah, right here. No, I brought them for you. Yeah, I have a hard copy of the RFP too, if that would be helpful.
I love it.
Oh. All right, I will welcome everybody to is today, January 8th. That's fair. CA, Downtown WCI board meeting. We'll call the meeting to order at 4:02 or something. Welcome, everyone, and Happy New Year. All right, let's see, let's do roll call real quick. Tony McGoldie.
Here.
Scott Berman.
Here.
Calvin Jones.
Here.
And Rachel Elzinga. Here. All right, so we have, and then you said that Ron or Ken is on his way?
We're not sure he's necessarily on his way, but we think he's gonna be here.
Okay, all right, well, we'll continue on with the agenda then. We have an agenda in front of us. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
Move to approve. Support.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion is passed. We have an agenda. Public comments? All staff and friends, all right, none? Let's move to approval of the minutes from our December 11th meeting. Need a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So it's passed as well. All right, moving on to old items, we're moving right along today. None, so we have nothing there. And then we have new items of business, election of officers. Hi.
Laura.
Hi. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, Laura, good.
You can run down here and thank you. You can run down here.
How you doing?
Get settled here real quick. Welcome back.
I'm here. Start the new year off good.
Awesome. All right, so our first item of business today is the election of officers.
Yeah, and I'll apologize. This should have happened at the last meeting in the last year. So I, reorienting to my brain to this group. So instead we'll do it now. From among this group, there's a chair, vice chair, and secretary. The duties are in the memo in the meeting packet. I think pretty widely understood. The only interesting thing about this group, and maybe I'm telling you what your rules are, is the ascendancy model, where the plan is that once you become an official or board member, part of the executive committee, you the idea is that you move up through the ranks and then roll off as you're done. Yes. So right now the chair is Peggy, vice chair is Tony, and secretary Scott. Using this model, Scott would ascend to vice chair. Tony would ascend to chair. Peggy would roll off to the rest of the group. There is actually an option in the bylaws for kind of like a past chair to be part of executive committee meetings, should that happen. So really that means that the only vacancy would be for the secretary position at this time. Now, of course, I did include in here because you can't force people necessarily take officer positions if they don't want to do so. I would suggest if someone doesn't want to play the role that kind of this ascendancy model requires, that you could suspend that bylaw and just vote for somebody, or you could, or just consider it a vacancy. I think a cleaner way would maybe be to vote to suspend the bylaw and then elect someone new.
You can't just appoint.
Well, I mean, according to your bylaws, shall use the ascendancy model.
Okay.
So I think that was the idea when this was adopted. So that's why I provided this alternative if you don't want to follow that.
So what
But
is
I would suggest we
Hmm?
go through and formally change the bylaws if that's not how you want to tackle it in the future.
pleasure of the board?
I think ascendancy makes sense.
Mhm. That's what we've been doing, right?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we did it last time, right?
I was gonna say, was there any issue with who was on? Like, was Tony?
Ken was the original.
He was the original.
chair,
Right.
And then I
But
was
then he
vice
rolled up.
chair, so I moved up.
Yeah.
Okay,
And Tony
He was the original secretary.
okay.
Oh, okay.
He assigned you that.
That happened. Yeah, it was like a four, if I remember.
So in considering nominations, consider that that person will eventually be chair,
So, all right, so we're looking for nominations for
secretary.
secretary. So that would be Laura, right, Rachel,
Rachel.
Scott. Oh.
Oh,
And nothing disqualifying Peggy or the idea
Oh,
would
that's
be
true.
just rolls off and
That's true.
go
Yeah,
back through.
I'll try and give you a break. And
Not
Ken-
much to
and
it so
Ken,
far,
yeah,
right?
yeah, then that's the one, and then
Not much
Ken-
to it. Ken will be happy some.
Ken, I got-
Because of that.
So I thought we picked you because you weren't there and we defaulted to.
Yeah. oh, man.
You were it.
That's fine.
And then for what it's worth, the secretary position, if in the bylaws, it does state they're responsible for minutes.
Yeah.
But obviously our staff does
I was
minutes,
just
so
gonna-
we
I was gonna say.
we plan on tackling the administrative, tasks
Yeah.
with this board.
does anybody want to be secretary?
Yeah. Is there-
I would, but I hate committing right now, just,
Sure.
Yeah, no, we understand.
Absolutely.
I know. I mean, you could put me on as secretary and I'm gonna do my darndest.
There's not, like I said, they do all the work. It's a matter of being part of the formal
Yeah.
committee, but then the ascension process, and I don't know what's involved in the next two steps without them telling me, but.
Oh, yeah, but then she would move up, you just keep moving up. to
Right.
chair.
Okay,
Well, just like February, I probably won't be here because it's gonna be right around Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
there's
you'll be
just-
swamped.
Yeah, there's.
What about you, Calvin?
We forgive you.
I appreciate it.
No, I think as long as he is interested in.
Kelvin, you would make a good secretary.
Yeah, you know. You've already stated you'd be interested.
No,
so
no, no, I
I'm a team player.
We could ask Bill to do it.
Kelvin, I'll be your assistant secretary. How's
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Bill to it. We can
I
make
don't
Bill
know the
do it.
bylaws. I don't know the bylaws.
Bill would totally do it. Bill would totally do it.
Who? That?
Let's
Bill,
have Bill.
Bill,
Bill.
who's not
He's
here
not here
today.
today.
Bill
You
DuPont.
think he was?
I think you would.
Was that the way? Don't miss a meeting, because you get an action item.
You
It'll be
do.
an action item. And then he moves up in the ascension. He may not.
Does he know that though?
Probably not.
Probably.
Probably not. Rachel, you?
I'll do it if nobody else wants to. But like you get it, I'm like. I'm trying to, how do you serve other boards?
Okay, what exactly are the duties of the secretary at this point?
So the formal duties are executing documents in the name of the CIA board. I don't see that being a particularly challenge. I don't see a lot of documents official coming from our group but if anything, it would be a signature that everybody would all agree on. You'd just be the final signature. It's like I said, minutes, but we do the minutes. And it just says other appropriate duties as may be requested by the CIA board.
I mean, I think the answer, just having done it this year, I haven't done anything. Okay, I'm super qualified for it, because I haven't done anything, because they've done it. But I mean, something could happen. I think the bigger issue to consider is the escalation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that things are likely to start ramping up in future years as we get
yeah, I
more
mean,
progress, but
Yeah, so do you,
I certainly would tell you, I don't think it's overly burdensome from my.
at the moment, but
experience.
yeah. And if we keep the ascension, then that's how it's gonna go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, probably once we get into the officers, we do prefer that they're at as many meetings as
Yeah.
possible.
Right, that's what I'm
Because it-
saying. I mean, I'm working with my doctors.
Sure.
I'm putting it in my calendar right now, Brian. February 12th. Yeah.
You put your order in already, Tony?
Yeah, that too, that too.
So we have Rachel, who said that she'd be.
Do you wanna,
I can totally do it if you don't want to, that's fine.
I mean, we can tag team if we need to.
Yeah, it's, I'm happy to do it. That's, yeah, it's.
All right.
Are you sure?
Sure.
Hey, your motion?
I move the nominations be closed.
In the back here, excuse myself.
So who's that,
Rachel.
Rachel?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Am I allowed to hold a position?
good.
Because I'm the at-large member.
Just not done see anything in here.
Okay, I didn't know that either, so.
Good try.
Nominations are closed.
Do we have a nomination for Rachel to serve as secretary?
Yes,
Second.
There you go. Yeah. All right, it's approved. So our official incoming board will be Tony McGaldy as president, or chairperson rather, and then Scott, you're going to be
Vice.
vice chair,
Vice.
Chair, vice, secretary.
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 Awesome, awesome.
That's
You
our,
gotta remember
our
there's
board.
a woman in the mix.
It's true.
All right.
It's true.
All right, thank you for that.
You are known collectively as the executive committee. Congratulations.
Oh.
Fancy.
Fancy title.
All right.
And that's for one idea, one calendar year?
Until this December,
Okay, and then.
at which
do the same
point the
thing.
roles would change again. We have a new vacancy for secretary.
We would go in December and effective the first of the.
Yep.
There you go, sir. Get the gavel.
We're
Oh,
doing
it's
it.
you. This, yeah, it really is your first meeting. Have fun.
That's fine, all right.
But thank you, Peggy, for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Love it. I'm out. All right. Is there any other regarding the, that piece of it? Anything else we need to be aware of moving forward? Is there, are we still, are we short anybody?
We are short one
One
member.
person.
And are we looking to fill that position or what's the status there?
Yeah, that role typically resides with the supervisor of the township, so my assumption is that he's working with people and considering people as if they show interest.
Okay. But nothing for us to,
I don't think we have any
There's no issue.
pending applications for it.
okay. All right. So second piece of business then is the RFP. The draft RFP that you sent out on Friday, Peter.
Yeah,
Wanna
so
go through that?
I'll go briefly through. Does everyone have a copy of I distributed hard copies?
You got
Anyone in the audience? I think I've got everybody. So in your meeting packet is a draft request for proposals. It's titled West Saginaw Highway Conceptual Streetscape Design and Corridor Plan. And it is intended to be pretty limited in scope. I would call your attention probably to start with to page 3 of 7, because the scope of services is probably what needs the most attention from this group. And I've got on here 7 items, really, they're intended to kind of frame what this group is looking for. And I pulled it from all kinds of different sources, but really conversations, the action plan, everything is tried to get it in here as neatly as possible. But really the idea here is to have it truly mean conceptual. We're not looking for, and please correct me along the way if I say anything that's online. We're not looking for an engineering company to survey the right of way and look at very specifics. We're looking big picture and really to have someone that's gonna help us interface with MDOT and represent the interests of this group in the township with their design team over the next year. So if you don't mind, I'll go through them. I know everybody's looking at them, but I'll kind of read them for the record here. So number 1 is develop a conceptual streetscape profile. What I mean by profile is the left to right, like sidewalk to sidewalk view of the street, that entire public right of way. For the Saginaw Highway or right of way, appropriate locations and widths, boulevards, green space, landscaping and pathways to accommodate both pedestrians, bicycles, and really I need to say non-motorized transit here. Reviewing the MDOT draft project plans, providing consultation to the township, offering suggestions for improvement or changes to the scope that incorporate direction provided by this group and the township as a whole. Attend board meetings, planning commission, corridor improvement authority meetings, and project team meetings, and serve as our general liaison to MDOT. I'm not anticipating that they would be our sole representative, but they would just supplement the team to help us as we engage with MDOT. Reviewing the townships, we do have on the books an access management ordinance and standards, but reviewing those, providing suggestions, and then also looking at that area of the highway and ultimately the rest of the corridor, which we'll touch on in a second. And how do we best minimize safety concerns for motorized and non-motorized travel. Incorporating project elements and methods to calm traffic. So really that part where broadband comes in is where the speed limit is pretty drastically reduced, and it's obviously kind of the gateway to the commercial corridor. So just having someone on the team that would help us ensure that traffic is calmed appropriately and that transition is made best possible manner. Again, this is all under the context of the scope of the MDOT project too. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying we necessarily be able to accomplish all of this, but this is kind of the things that we're gonna have in mind. Preliminary examination of the character of West Saginaw Highway for the rest of the corridor. So the idea here is that anything that they're looking in this, this has been mentioned here in this group multiple times. Basically, like whatever design we look at on this part could be implemented in other portions of the right of way. Now, the characteristics are different as you go down, but we're looking at creating some standards that could be replicated where appropriate. 7 is identify the best location and preliminary design for right now. The only gap in the pedestrian bicycle non-motorized network is that north side of the highway. So they would look at the best place for that. We know, and I don't have anything to show you, but we know part of the scope of the MDOT project is to relocate the ramp there on the north side, the traffic that's coming off of, would be westbound Saginaw. Off of I-69/96. They're looking to, right now it's at like a 45-degree angle. I
Yeah.
think they're planning on maybe coming out into a 90, something like that. But we want to try to get a pathway connection through there.
That's great.
So that's the exit ramp?
Excuse me?
That's the exit ramp from 96 you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Okay. Right, that's in the corner where Texas Roadhouse is.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Makes sense. Okay.
So I think that incorporates pretty much everything that this group has talked about in one way or the other, and it's meant to be, and please tell me if you disagree, that the language here is meant to be flexible.
Yeah.
It's meant to be as open as possible because we don't exactly know where this is going. The rest of the RFP kind of follows the standards format that the engineering department uses. So we got a lot of stuff in here, but on the back page, really, it's like we reserve the right to hire whoever we want. And the scope of the project may change and the costs may change along with that. Does anyone have any preliminary comments or about where we're at with this? Anything to add, troublesome language to remove?
What kind of companies do you send this to? Or
We would-
historically have we sent?
Well, I was looking at any kind of architectural engineering project design companies. Perfect example is Progressive AE, like Suzanne Schultz
Mhm.
works at. The companies provide that you typically, and there, I guess there's probably no typical firm like that, but they'll provide engineering services, planning services, architectural design services. Sometimes all under the same roof, sometimes they'll have teams they work with.
Have we socialized this with MDOT then? That we
We-
were gonna do something like this?
So, yeah, so we had a meeting this morning. I didn't
Okay.
want it to be, I don't want to blindside them. And I kind of think of it as kind of like lawyering up, like here,
Mhm.
this project's coming and we're retaining counsel. And it's not meant to be a shot across the bow. It's meant to be a partnership.
Yep.
So we did, we talked with Aaron, who's the managing director of the regional office. Is that the right way to say it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then their lead that will be their lead on this project. Just say, hey, this is what we're up to. I read through the scope with them, make sure nothing was too scary to them, and they said that's fine.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about time frame. If you see, now I plugged some numbers in here and they aren't meant to be totally blind on
Yeah.
page 2. And I hope it works generally out this way. The project, as we know it, is set to begin construction in 2028.
Mm-hmm.
This right now is starting the preliminary public input phase, like the scoping, they call it. So they have an RFP on the streets to bring their team together and get a scope put together. And then over the next, once that happens, which we're told could be like this late spring, early summer, then they would get into their preliminary design and then that would go for a year. So we're right in the sweet spot of putting our team together so that we're ready to review and help workshop this with them. But then also, I think a big leg of this that our team can do, we don't necessarily need a consultant, is to help spread the word and get everybody to the table. Because there's a lot of, I counted 22 parcels in that area that all
Yeah.
touch this. Not to mention all the businesses down Marketplace and whatever new things will come along with the project to the north. So there's a lot of impact here. So anyways, sorry, I deviate from the message. I've got this final deliverable coming to us in July. And then work would start sometime mid-February. That would give us about 4 weeks for it to be on the street and for us to get submittals and to review them, maybe interview people. Pull somebody on board, and then they could start the work and really work on it for several solid months.
And when you socialize that with MDOT, that was okay with,
Yeah.
based on their schedule?
They thought that we may actually be, like they may come together just a little bit before we do, but, let's say I just don't know how to. I think we're going as quickly as we can.
I think you're gonna be okay.
Okay.
I did, while you were doing this, ironically, MDOT actually sent out their RFP.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So, and they actually referenced this board.
Hmm.
Yeah, as part of that, work, and there is language in there about the early preliminary engineering work. Really, the conceptual work, which is good.
It looks like this, our efforts are gonna line up pretty good with their early preliminary engineering work, which will be good. It would be, I think, good to have synergy before they start going into their final design
Yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely.
That's a
process.
great approach, Ryan. I think you've got, I think, well, being proactive is the name of the game, and I think you do have probably 18 months or so. That would,
Okay.
knowing their process, before their process would be, I would say, completed before they get to, final design. So typically they do a 30% base, plan submittal. And I don't see them kicking that off probably until later this year, early next year type thing.
Okay.
But what the inputs that we can provide right now would be fantastic. Was there any I guess, back to Scott's point, is there any, like the vendors you would be sending this out to, was there any conversations with them about conflict of interest with their type? Because I see vendors out there that would go after this work as MDOT, and then, I don't know, is there value in this, a firm or two or subs to go after this work? Or should it be completely independent? And that's something that is for the board, but we can have the conversation, but I don't know if there's been any type of that dialogue out
we
there.
have not talked about it.
Okay.
It's a good thing to think about. Maybe we can issue an addendum. I don't know how much overlap there would. I haven't looked at the MDOT proposal that you sent me, so I don't know
Yeah.
if we're gonna be fishing in the same pond or not.
The scope that's from, Delta Township, it's definitely more high level conceptual, right? The idea would be an input. Their scope takes it all the way through final design, so a lot more detail.
Mhm.
I don't know, again, it's like with our scope here, would there be, so you're saying July of 2024, you would have a deliverable of some sort?
That's what we're hoping.
Okay. Sounds like it should work.
Okay. Any concerns with the scope or anything that seems to be missing from this?
No, I think it's great. My only comment, just to, where Tony's going with it, is that I wouldn't want the same firm that MDOT has because they're representing you. That would, to me, that's just,
Mhm.
I would want that separation if we could avoid that if possible.
Okay. We will be sure to
Sure.
include that in questions. and
Yeah, just so
stuff.
you're, so your interests
That would be
are fully represented.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
I have a question.
Before this goes out, do you have a legal department that takes a look at this in terms of?
I mean, a lot of this is boilerplate from other stuff we've sent out, which we have had legal review it. We can do another
This stuff?
legal review of it, but it's,
Hmm.
you know, most of it is kind of language have used before, other than this specific scope.
Yeah, but basically
Yeah.
A and B are new language,
Okay.
and the rest of it, the document came from
Right.
projects that have been
Yeah,
executed.
it
Okay.
seems very formulaic.
Yep.
Or like,
Yeah.
like the insurance coverages.
All
we
that
can run that
boilerplate.
Right, right. Yeah, that's what I was speaking to, the part that is not boilerplate.
Yeah, no, I used to, this is the first RFP I've ever really
Okay.
worked on, so,
All right.
I stole it from engineering department.
No, it's good.
It's the best way to do it.
Do they?
As long as they're still open.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Is there any value, I'm just throwing out just ideas. Any value of adding any prequals into our scope? I don't know if the engineering department. It's typically if it's a county prequals or in this case, MDOT prequals, is there any high level? Prequals, is there any value there?
Such as,
Project development studies. Again, it's a nomenclature that they would use to identify companies that would have a baseline amount of expertise in an area.
You asked for 5 examples of prior work though, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, so
I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah.
How do people who are interested in this even find out about it? Is it all push or is there some public domain where companies that may not qualify could look at it and?
yeah,
Court them. You
Yeah.
can invite them to apply.
we'll probably push this out to known firms. That we,
So there's not like a place where people that are looking for this
Repository.
kind of work go to
there, I
see
mean,
if
there,
there's work.
there
being requested
is,
or
yeah, there is,
is it
I
on
forget
the
what
Like
website?
MML or something?
bid that. Yeah, bid that, I
Yeah.
forget the engineering one, or the, like, the MIDA. There are some repositories that we could, so sometimes we, sometimes we do that, sometimes we take a more measured approach in terms of who we invite,
Mhm.
just so we don't end up with, a ton of.
They don't want. I think it's important that we don't have a conflict of interest and that there's, no risk of that. But I also understand we don't want to create so much work trying to filter through people or options. But I think this whole process started with some of that friction of potential conflict of interest. With Eric and Gary's group and the affiliation with Delta Crossings and the Township, and I think we'd all like to avoid, I would like to avoid that ever having hanging a shadow over it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
No, it looks good.
So at this point with the schedule, are we going to be meeting prior to the February meeting? As
No.
far as looking at,
Well, I think what we had talked about at the last meeting was basically the agreement on this RFP. And then the staff and the township team would put it out into the
Okay.
world. We would receive proposals, review them, really find the team that were asked all the questions that we've just been over today. And pick somebody and run with it and then bring you back
okay,
introduce, at that point, that person will become part of our team.
Okay.
Introduce them to the group and, have input into what they're up to. And then they would be here to present their final project at some point.
Do you
That's
guys
aligned with what what
Do you
everyone
guys-
else remembers.
historically have interviews for your finalists?
We typically do, especially something like this where, some of the scope is not
Right,
With the record.
right,
Define.
cut and dry, so,
sure.
so yeah, we would do, and I think that's what Peter's referencing is we would do all the background research and interviews and then bring the recommendation, correct? Peter?
Yeah.
So you would just you would bring us the final recommendation?
Yeah.
Correct.
Staff recommendation for
Yeah.
your final consideration.
Okay.
Do we feel like one of us wants to participate in their interviews?
I think we should. I think that should-
One person though, not all of us, representative of the board.
Or maybe it's the top three. I mean, I don't know how many you expect, but
I think it just depends on what we receive. I mean, we've had it before where we've, like for instance, we did this process for Mount Hope Park and we ended up interviewing 4 firms, out of, I think, 8 proposals. We, had really good proposals. We've had them before where we just, one has really stood out and we have one interview just to make sure everything, marks it. Usually we're down to, 2 after reading through the proposals and just do, basically 2 interviews and see who we like. So it's really just dependent on the quality that we get. Sometimes, these last few years, sometimes we only get 1 bid. I don't think that'll be the case with this, but again, this is a little bit more of a subjective, versus it's not like here's
Sure.
specific tasks, assign a dollar amount and we'll make our decision. So we want to gauge a little bit about the approach to work and that type of thing.
Thank you for, this just triggered a question. Do we have a set budget for this?
I was gonna ask the same question.
Like,
Because
if
this
we're
is
gonna,
coming out of CIA boards.
yeah, it's
Overall
kind of money,
budget.
but I just don't know, like,
Yeah.
if you guys have like a max spend you
Yeah.
wanted to, are we advertising or just kind of see what comes in?
I think we want to
Evaluate.
see what comes in.
Sure.
So this is, there'll be some probably negotiation once we see the scope and kind of dialing that in for final dollar amounts.
how much was it that we had to?
Yeah, we had that all set at the beginning.
Well, we,
I
I
know.
don't know,
A
did
rough-
we assign a dollar amount for this part?
Well, just how much do we even have right now?
That's a pie chart.
Spend?
We had,
Well, we do have, we have, there is money that we've assigned in the TIP
Yep,
towards corridor planning and that type
Yep.
of thing. It's an allowable expense. We have not necessarily set a line item in the annual budget for this specific process. So
You talked before about how much we have generated.
Yeah, because-
revenues.
yeah, we had
Thank
the
you.
attorney
Us.
cost and
Couple meetings
everything.
ago or something?
last
And
meeting,
there.
Peter gave us a budget update, I feel like.
I did.
Yeah.
So it's in our notes from our it's in our packet from last meeting.
yeah, I don't.
But in
I mean,
very
so the
beginning, we
bottom
were
line is,
discussing, then it
The
was
bottom
like,
line I'm
this was-
asking is that
This was.
people
for
do these
attorney
RFPs
fees, This was for,
in pursuit of
You know,
business.
the
That was like the
township.
first year.
right.
Yep.
Am I right that people do the RFPs in pursuit of business? There's
I
not a
don't know
cost
if
for them to
there's
do the
because-
RFP.
That's the whole
Right.
fully, and we're pulling. like,
So
motion.
part of the process will be evaluating those costs in comparison to our budget and overall budget, as the team said, for the allocation. I agree with the screening process, to try to narrow that down. I personally would like to see final interviews or meetings with no less than 2 people, unless you don't have them. I would like to be a part of those, but I don't think that I have the qualifications or the background to be a part of the interview process. I feel like Rachel or Tony have the best background and knowledge to help us get there and assist them if either or both of you are willing to do that. But I think whether it's 2 or 3 finalists should have to present to this group to ask questions if we're all gonna say, yep, we agree with that decision. Explore things like conflicts or pricing or scope or experience, things like that.
See, I think at the last meeting we had discussed, we did not want it coming back to the full group for interviews, and so that would be a staff component, and then we would make a final recommendation with a robust background of why we were,
We could, I'm sure
going
we'd be able to get
towards that.
access to their proposals too, right? And then then you
Yeah.
can just sit there and talk about
Mhm,
the good and the bad.
And the.
correct.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, if the board feels otherwise.
Sure.
Right, we could always go to another
Not
set of
vote in,
interviews
Cannot approve.
or not, could not approve. But that door's open if it doesn't, if it doesn't feel appropriate, is what I'm hearing, Scott.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that's fine.
if it's not, if it doesn't feel right to the group,
I think somebody
Approve it.
from here should be involved in
Yeah.
that process. I would personally prefer that with the finalists make brief presentations. But if that's not good, I think the first step is important for me to feel good
Mhm.
about
I feel
putting
like,
my name on it.
and I totally understand where you're coming from. 100%. I think that. If we're talking about timeline, like there's a pretty finite timeline, the way I'm looking at it from my experience, like I feel like that could delay us in having a firm start by a month. By doing that, just because we have to time it with one of our board meetings, or we'd have to agree to have a special meeting. And so I just want to put that, like the
That's fine.
timeline of
I'm
process out there.
open to either case. To me, I look at 6 months, July, and think that seems like to a business owner, a lifetime. I know in government, it seems like.
And it's like
tomorrow.
tomorrow, Scott.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But I get it. Totally get it.
I was gonna say 6 months. You guys are pretty aggressive.
I was
gonna say maybe 12 months, but Peter's putting screws together.
I like it.
That's fine. Let's do this.
I like it.
If we find out that's unrealistic, I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to needlessly delay it. I want to put my name on something that I have an informed decision and feel confident.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. I totally respect that. Absolutely.
We'll leave it up to Brian and Peter to make sure that they provide us all the information.
Okay.
And again, we'll talk about that. So the intent on February 12th is we would have packet of, are you gonna be able to turn that around quick enough?
Well, yeah, hopefully. I don't know for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
It doesn't give you, if it's due the 8th, right? That really, we'll have
Where do you get the 8th from?
That's when our next meeting.
the 12th.
When is,
Well,
I'm sorry,
next
Peter,
meeting as well.
I know it says it in here. When is the submission due? Sorry,
I've got February 19th.
February 9th.
Oh, February 9th, I'm sorry. I was looking at, that
Sorry, I wondered where you were getting the 8th from.
was my mistake.
So we realistically, we wouldn't know until March.
March.
The consultant would be.
Okay.
Which would then give them time to go through everything that they've gotten and set up their interviews and do their stuff.
Right.
Okay.
So the notice to proceed would need to move here. You have a notice to proceed on February 19th. That's really can't. That's not gonna happen.
That's, yeah, okay.
That would have.
I
to
got messed up on the
happen.
dates.
But that would have to be following our meeting in March. At the earliest.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Let's
Wait,
see.
why do we change them?
So they're not gonna, they would be presenting us their finalists on the
On the
11th, and so then we would approve it that day. So the notice to proceed, the earliest they could really happen will be the 12th
Great.
of March.
Yeah, we're asking for proposals back by February 9, which
February.
again, may be aggressive, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
That
think
gives about 4 full weeks if we get it out this week still.
yep.
that's fine.
Yeah, I think that
That's okay.
timeline works.
Yeah.
I think just building in some time for the interviews before coming up.
Yeah,
for
give yourself at least a
final.
comfortable month, right?
Yeah.
Like, it takes
Okay.
time to set everything
Oh,
up
yeah.
and go through the stuff.
That takes. So we're saying the March meeting is March 11th. Would be when we reconvene and we'll verify, validate.
Do you want to sit in on do we want to vote to have someone sit in on the interviews? Do we need to vote on that? Do we just need to
I
agree on
don't
it?
know, do we need to vote on
Yeah,
that? Or
okay.
do
We
we?
could vote on it, but whatever your
Think-
preference is, we could,
Yeah, I don't
We
think
could
we
do.
need to
include the chair.
vote on.
Sure,
I think, yeah.
let's do that.
Tony, you don't mind?
No, I don't mind.
If you
Just
can't
give me
make it-
some dates.
If you can't be there, just give me a call.
Okay, yeah.
How
just-
about that? I can
how's
be
that?
your alternative.
Okay. Yeah. We don't have any preliminary dates for the interviews right now, right?
No, I'll flesh all that out here.
Okay. The interviews, say late February. So March 11th, we'll have our meeting. And then tentatively the notice to proceed. How long does it take you guys, once you guys get the selection done? Is that pretty quick on the Delta Township side?
Once we have proposals and
Yeah,
reviewing them and
and
everything, I
everything.
think so, yeah. 2
Yeah,
weeks,
just
not even.
probably a committee of people reading them and.
It doesn't have to go to another
Does it have to-
approval, doesn't have to go to, yeah,
No,
no.
Okay, cool.
So say by March, just tentatively, March 25th. Notice to proceed, something like in that area, 2 weeks after we meet.
Yeah,
We meet on the 11th. That gives so basically two
Wouldn't
weeks
they be
after
presenting
that.
the final though? Wouldn't we be voting that day to say yes or no?
Yeah,
In
pretty much,
theory.
in theory,
Okay,
and if something changes, it,
so
yeah.
that's why you wanna like build a buffer of 2 weeks.
Yes,
Then we, okay,
yes,
nope,
yes, yes. So,
totally,
yep,
that sounds smart.
yep,
March 11th,
that makes,
3.
you have all that, Peter?
yep.
So
Well,
do we wanna,
Go ahead.
are we gonna vote on this?
I don't know that we have
I
I
know.
to.
wasn't
I don't
anticipating
think we
necessarily,
have to.
no, this is
Uh,
more
in
just
terms of
exactly
just
just
adding-
workshopping. the
Work-
workshop.
Good,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Peter, do we wanna consider extending like the deliverable date just a little bit then?
Right, so we have
Yes.
the March 25
Yeah.
notice to proceed, so that bumps July back.
Mhm.
Maybe like August 1st, give them a couple more weeks or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Or August sometime, July 31st.
so July 31st is a Wednesday, we could make it August 5.
Monday.
June, July, August.
So find those.
That'd be cool, because then we'd be looking at it on the 12th.
Yeah, that'll give us a week to,
If that sounds good.
and hopefully some of these deadlines, we working with this. team
Yeah.
Well,
member.
sure, right.
that may be some of the discussion in their proposal is,
Yeah.
hey, here's what we think the timeline
Mhm. Makes sense.
should be.
But this is a good framework.
And
for
yeah,
now.
just thinking maybe we may want to. Some of the information, well, we do have it in there. I was gonna say include some of the information from our meeting this morning, just about MDOT's kind of time.
Yeah, I think I've got some
That's a
general
great
stuff in
idea.
there.
Have that in there.
get that, yeah.
And that'll be part of the intro meeting, whoever does it, find interest in our proposal here. Kind of base it on reality and what they're.
That is a good point, Brian. Do we have in there?
We have general stuff. in
I've got
the
general about the
introduction,
design.
But we can
Yeah, design.
bolster that a little bit.
Yep.
Yes. Because you may wanna, yeah, MDOT. Yep, okay, there it is, item number 3. Scope of services, point number 3.
And we'll be sending the kind of the final draft to MDOT after this,
Okay,
just so
Okay.
they're aware of our timeline, and they seemed good with it. In theory, as of
Sure.
this morning.
the other related to the scope. Do we? Is there any need, so you're looking for examples, right? So you're gonna get 5 examples. We're talking about conceptual streetscape profile, access management standards. Is there any concern, or do we need to add anything related to the actual operations?
Like the level of service.
Any of it, yeah, if it's level of service, if it's a different configuration, so we're, they're talking a boulevard, right?
Mhm.
Well, are we talking in direct left configuration, a direct, or the traditional Michigan? Yeah,
See, this is why you're on the interview panel.
yeah, so I mean, what are we talking about here? Because it could change up to the width. Green space, could do a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
and we were warned this morning about the width of the boulevard, and
Yeah.
not providing much space for.
That's, that's MDOT's overriding concern is there's not a lot of space there.
And when they say that, it's about what's accessible without some drastic thing like. Nobody.
Right.
What do you-
Yeah, they
the
said
physical-
without having to try to
Like, yeah.
purchase more property.
Right.
or
Mhm.
Eminent domain,
Easements or-
which will
Mhm.
push back the.
Political nightmare.
Yeah,
Right.
well, timeline will extend the timeline quite a bit, but mainly in regards to non-motorized and.
Yeah.
Width of a boulevard
Mhm. That makes sense.
type things. So,
So they know
We already
those
have
constraints
sidewalks on a
of,
lot of it.
I know the township
We
years
do
ago,
have
right,
this
when
one.
the property on the south side was developed,
Would be the
the extra 25 feet, for an example.
mhm.
other
Okay.
exits and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Entrances. Be interesting to see how they consider those.
They should be taking that into
Hard for,
account.
like,
Yeah,
visuals that
I
we
guess
don't
the
know anything
question for
about.
the team here is, is there any specifically regarding to operations or validation of any traffic analysis? You know, I'm just being,
I think-
I'm just laying devil's advocate. If there's something there, we don't want to rock the boat by no means, but if there's you know, coming out of this, and maybe that's part two. I don't know. Just.
Saying to add that in as verification or analysis.
Basically rework, sorry, if I could you're saying, would it be valuable to have our consultant basically, I don't say rework, but at least validate their, what, traffic flow? Modeling?
Maybe the term is peer-to-peer. Some type of just peer-to-peer validation.
That's,
What do you think about that?
I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, I
Just-
think that, and you may know more about this, Tony, than I do, but I think that would probably be a second phase, because this is
Yeah,
preliminary.
yep,
And I think our efforts here, we're hoping to implement ourselves into their preliminary process to help guide that. So they have really one scoping document, which was produced by ACOM or
Mhm.
whatever, that
Yep.
is, basically nothing, just this is what is possible in this space that they're gonna build off of. So I think we want to try to implement ourselves into their preliminary process to help guide the development as it heads into the design.
mhm,
And then probably at that point, it becomes a decision point whether or not to, if we like the path that they're on or don't like it, want to try to verify it. Does
Okay.
that sound?
That
Let that-
sounds fair.
Yeah,
There's
that's
a grant
Yep,
at some
I get
point
it.
where we double down and
Yeah.
hire someone for further
Could-
analysis,
could
be.
or we don't, is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. So you get through July, August. I don't know if you're gonna have anything to really, it may be down the road more, MDOT may not be able to show
Right.
you anything.
Right.
And my concern is you don't wanna get down so far down the road, it's too late.
Right.
So that's why I was bringing it up. I don't have any problems with the part two. You know, if you wanna do the second, part two, that could happen second part of this year. But just something to think about.
Okay, and if something changes along the way, we can get together and
Yeah.
talk
Right, you can
about
amend your
it.
scope of who you hire and we can, right. Right.
Yeah, it'll be dynamic. It's hard not having control of MDOT's process and they,
Right.
now the good thing is, I mean, they seem delighted to, and I think they put their money where their mouth is, mentioning us into their
Yeah,
proposal, and they're
it is.
interested in our survey data and having us at the table, because I think they know we're an engaged group.
Right.
And so they do not want a problem at the end. But that being said, I think we also have to be realistic, is that, they might not have a ton of different options, so we have to, be able to dial in what are things that we want out of it and
Sure.
You're right.
and get on the same page with them, knowing where we have room to, help them make changes that are positive for our community,
Absolutely. No, you're right.
without, saying like, well, we'd like it reduced to, 2 lanes and a turning
That's it,
lane and that's it.
yeah,
you know?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, understood. All right. Anything else, from the team related to the draft RFP, number 2? Did we appreciate you bringing it up?
Well, thanks for all the time and effort into reviewing this and the feedback. It's really appreciated.
Thank you. This is great, Peter.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I
Okay.
had a lot of help from our team.
I bet.
Thank you, team.
Yeah, team. Lot going on over the month of December. You're busy.
Yeah.
Let's go to other business. Is there, it looks like staff updates, and I know in the packet you had some additional. I think the back of the packet, you also included some updates to businesses.
Yeah, so in the
Updates.
packet is the kind of the comings and goings. I call it the tenant changes list. There are some new things on here, maybe that you haven't heard. Well, I think everyone has seen now the Zap, big corridor news is Zapstone moved into their space. They're open. It's crazy over there. If you haven't been into the space, please go. It's a $10 million investment, 125,000 square foot space, and it shows its investment. And it was busy. We had a grand opening. There's some pictures on the Township website if you didn't see those, or on the Township Facebook page. We had good cross section of people that came out to celebrate the opening. The owner was excited. It's been busy. You never see cars in that area of the mall. And all of a sudden there's like a whole, nightlife. They did some really cool perimeter lighting, like that blue ring.
Yeah, that's great.
It looks new. It looks exciting. So between that, and the furniture store, and we got to be there when they opened, and that's kind of like kick myself. We did all these photos in the lobby area, but then we didn't open the door that goes into the mall. So I asked him, well, how about the door? He goes, oh, yeah, let's open it. So like, when they opened it, we got some pictures with board members, but it was immediate. Like people were walking and doing stuff in the mall. And I'm
Nice.
like, what's this? So
That's good.
the connection was immediate.
Good news.
The other big stuff on here, just in corridor specific stuff. There's a couple new vendors at the mall still, that former Golden Corral restaurant that's down at Elmwood, that's been empty for quite a while, got a tenant, so this iPot is moving in there. Hot pot barbecue sushi place, it seems to be the new big trend.
Sushi is like
It's a-
all up.
No.
Yeah,
Sushi and Korean barbecue.
right,
Yeah.
and chicken, we're still everything.
Yeah.
Lots of chicken. That's true.
Right.
Lots of chicken.
It's amazing how they all.
Chicken and sushi.
Yeah.
We do, on the corridor, there's a expansion proposed to the Goodwill, it'd be at the rear of the building, so it's
Oh,
not
that's
particularly
good.
exciting, but it's good, the
That's
investment
great.
we do appreciate. Any questions about the list? This is just my running list.
Any update on the Amazon distribution center?
Yeah, this is not a big update, and we actually did get a request for comment from the LSJ that we're putting something together for. But there's really nothing right now. So the building director has talked to Amazon about that they are gearing up to present plans for the interior build out, but we haven't seen those yet.
Okay.
So there's, as far as we know, everything's, status quo and proceeding hopefully soon. If you do see vehicles out there, just so you know, when you're driving around town, another company is using the other delivery, the last
The
mile.
last mile.
Amazon facility is gonna be parking some
Parking
vehicles at Amazon, at the other facility.
Mhm.
So if you see that and you haven't heard from us that it's
Yeah.
happening, that's what's
Okay.
happening.
All right, thank you.
When was that supposed to open? What's the plan right now? Is that 2025 or?
At this moment in time, by the end of 2024,
Okay,
but that has been.
sure.
moved back
Sure,
several
sure, sure. Okay,
And there is, they do have a lot of racking materials. And stuff in there on pallets. I did walk through the building with our assessor. And it's a huge building, so they have, I don't know how many, several $1 million worth of racking equipment that's
wow.
stored in there, so. At least there are.
Signs of life.
Yes. Materials.
No
I like
mice,
it, yeah.
just.
That's good. I see the Amazon, then also the battery plant of a Davis Highway. that still?
Chugging
Yeah.
along.
That's
Oh,
still
yeah.
going on?
And major things are happening there every week. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
They are actively ramping up hiring right now. So.
okay. And that's also 2025? Is that what I understand?
Yes. Full operation at the
Right.
beginning of 2025.
That's great. Other good things going on in the township.
Yeah.
Good. Timely. Okay, anything else under other business? Anything else?
I'll have a opening to announce later this week for the firehouse subs. It's gonna take the place of it's in here somewhere under
Oh,
coming
yeah.
soon. Yeah, they're gonna do a ribbon cutting. I'll send it out here on, I think, February 2. It's a Friday. I am told there'll be sandwiches for free. So I'll send an email out about that.
Okay.
Again, no, when you get those things from me, no pressure to attend, but if you're available, it's a great opportunity to make hay for the new business. We get some photos and post them to our Facebook page and help spread the word. So if you can be there and meet somebody new, it's always appreciated.
All right.
That's all. Do you have anything you want to
Anything,
add?
Brian?
I don't unless there's any questions.
Anything else from anyone? If not, we'll close this, right at 5 o'clock.
Oh, nailed it.
Adjourn?
So moved.
Support.
Lord,
Good job.
it is. All right,